Alright, so today I'm going to be talking about how to get your Roblox game popular, because realistically that's the only reason you're making a Roblox game. You want money. Anyways, I'm going to tell you how to do it with my Masters of Experience, because there's way more competition, there's way more games than there used to be. But hopefully this will give you some idea of what you need to do to make people play your game. Now first of all, we're going to do some self-reflection. Why do you want your game to be popular? Well, money, obviously, you want money. You need to make sure your game is going to make the most money before you do any of this, because you don't want your game to get popular but then make no money, because it's pointless. Then you're wasting time where you could be making money, wasting that time on making the game more monetized, because you could be making money in that time but you're not. So you need to work on that before you do this. But first of all, we're going to look at how much money do popular games make. Now, I'm classing popular as like a few hundred players, not like a few 100,000. Like, they make too much money. But how much money are you going to make from your game? Because realistically, you're not making Adopt Me. You're making some obby game you're making an obby game, let's be honest. But I've had an obby game before, probably December of 2021. It had 300 players, up to 500 at some point, and it used to make a lot of money. I got to the point where I was making probably 30,000 Robux a day, with a few 100,000 pending. Probably around 100,000 pending actually, and I didn't update that game at all. I made it once, I advertised it, and it got popular. But I've tried to do that more recently. It's just not worked at all. But I've come up with a way to get your game somewhat popular. If you class like 10 to 30 players as popular, I've managed to do that a few times. And I think the way it works now is you can get that many players quite easily. Your game doesn't have to be that good. You don't have to make Adopt Me. So how do you actually get the game popular? What are the options? I'm talking about, you know, what happens when you do get it popular, but how do you get it popular? Well, there are like two main options. So you can either advertise, you could spend Robux on sponsors or adverts to like push it in front of people so they can click on your game and play it, or you can get YouTubers to play it. Now, in general, if you're advertising the game on Roblox, you want to aim it, you want to make it a game that's based or for people over the age of 13, because you can't advertise people under 13 anymore. Roblox removed that a week or so ago. But if you're going to have a YouTuber play your game, you want to target under 13, because most of the people who watch Roblox YouTubers are probably under the age of 13. So if you make a more child friendly game for people under the age of 13, so for YouTubers. But if you're just advertising on Roblox, you can make a game that's aimed towards people over 13, like simulators or obbies or something. But let me give you some examples. Adopt Me is aimed at like 6-year-olds. So if you're making a game like that, you probably want to try and get a YouTuber to play it. But my games are they're advertised, or they're made with people over the age of 13 in mind, because no child really, let's be honest, wants to sit and play an obby, because they're not going to be very good at it. So what are the requirements? What do you need for people to enjoy your game? What do you need for it to do well? We need the game to be good. You need reason for people to play your game over other similar games. Because if you make an obby, and it's just a copy of someone else's, but it's way worse, nobody's going to play yours, they're going to play that one instead, because that's just more fun. But if you make yours, and you make it inspired by the other game, but you make it more fun, people have reason to play your game over the other person's game, if you see what I mean. But if you don't do this well enough, it could fail. Like, for example, if you just make something that nobody else wants to play and it's just an idea that you have, realistically no one's going to play it. Because you've made it for you. Nobody else wants to play it. You need to come up with a game idea that people want to play. Because if nobody wants to play it, then again, you're not going to make any money, you're not going to get any players. And another point I have, if you're advertising the game, you need a good clickbait icon. Because if your icon's like just some words on a screenshot or something, no one's going to click it. It has to be like somewhat clickbait for people to play it, but that's not as important anymore, because you can't advertise to people under 13 now. Yeah, it's something you need to reflect on before you advertise your game, before you try and get it popular. Is it fun? Is it good? Is your game terrible? If your game's terrible, don't advertise it, make a new game. At least you've learned something from making that game. There's no point wasting your money advertising a game that's awful, that nobody wants to play, because then you're just wasting money. Yeah, but how much money do you spend advertising your Roblox game? Now, it's not cheap. It's not like 100 Robux a day. You have to spend at least like 3,000 or 4,000 Robux a day to get like 10 players in your game. And CTR matters, click-through rate. So every time your game appears on someone's screen, that's called an impression. And you want roughly maybe 2% of the time it appears on someone's screen, you want them to click it, so that's a 2% CTR. If it's clicked 3 out of 100 times, that's 3%. If it's clicked 50 out of 100 times, that's 50%. But the highest I think I've ever managed to get was around 4%, probably. So 4% is very good. And then there's another thing called cost per click, which is on average how much Robux you're spending for each click. And then there's another one called cost per play, which is completely different to cost per click. Cost per click is roughly how much Robux you're spending for a person to click on your advert, while cost per play is how much you're spending for someone to click on that advert and then play the game. You might find that sometimes people are clicking the advert lots but they're not playing the game. That's why you shouldn't have completely clickbait, unrelated thumbnails, because if people are clicking that and then they're seeing the game completely different, they're not going to play it. But if you make a game that's clickbait but similar to your game, it's going to get people who want to play your game to click it. But yeah, again, don't waste Robux advertising a game that's not good enough. You need to make sure your game's more fun than the other games. Give people a reason to play your game. If it's unique, if it's never been done before, then fair enough, it doesn't have to be better than other games because it's never been done before. But make sure, you know, it's fun, get people to test your game for you, and just plan for the release. So that's most of the important bits covered, but you need to have an awareness, you need to understand how many players your game's going to get. Now, once you've advertised, you need to advertise for a few days in a row, like blocks of a few days, because then, if you just advertise for one day, there's quite little chance of your game getting on like Roblox search results and in the recommended section, and if that doesn't happen, then you're not going to get players after you've finished advertising. So what you want to do, say you've got 10,000 Robux to spend, rather than spending 10,000 on one day, I recommend you do blocks of 3,000 each day, and then 1,000 on the end or something. But first of all, before you do any of that, you need to test your icon or advert if you're doing website adverts. So before you fully advertise, maybe send 300 Robux per day on 3 different icons to see which one has the highest cost per click and cost per play, and then you want to go with the one that's got the cheapest cost per play, so you're getting the most players for the least amount of Robux. But then, once you've done that, if you do it for a few days, hopefully you'll get in the search results or the recommended section, or in one of Roblox's many discovery sections. There's far too many now. But then if that happens, you should start getting a steady flow of players, and you just again need to make sure that your monetization is good enough and you should be making enough money. So I've got a few games that have a few players. I have, let me see, 3 sort of big games, or 3 games with players basically. One of them's got about 30 players, one of them's got around 15, and the other one has around 30 players as well. So that's like 75 players altogether, and I have around 17,000 Robux pending pretty much all the time. So that's 17,000 Robux I'm getting every 3 or 4 days. So it makes quite a bit of money from literally just 75 players. It sounds like a lot, but realistically it's not. Some people have thousands of players per game, so you could definitely be making a lot more. But 17,000 Robux is a lot of Robux, it's a good amount. So if I go to my past 30 days, so this month I've made 115,000 Robux, which is enough to DevX twice. So that's around $350 you can be making per month if you just have this many games. Once you get a few games, once you get one game with players, you can make another game and then get players on that game. Then you just scale up and up and up until you've got loads of games with loads of players. Or you can focus on one game, make one big game. Like for example, if you make loads of obbies, you might get a few hundred players maximum on each. But if you make one big simulator game that's really fun, that's unique, then you're more likely to get one game with a lot of players on it. However, when you make a simulator game, you might want updates, people want updates, it might die, but with obby games it's a lot easier to keep your players. But I hope I've covered most of the important topics there. Probably haven't, but you know, it's fine. I'll make a follow-up video probably on how to monetize your game better, how to make more money from your Roblox game if you've got a popular game, or a game with players but it's not making any money, because I was in that situation probably a few days ago. And I've managed to start making money from the game. So it's quite easy, you just have to basically shove things to buy in the player's face, basically, just in simple terms. But there are other things you can do. Anyways, if you found this helpful, like and subscribe please. I like big numbers, thanks. Anyways, goodbye.